Hi, everybody. Thanks to my MPA 340 students for joining us today here. And I'm very pleased to welcome David Vila Diéguez, who is an assistant professor in world languages and cultures here with us at CSU Monterey Bay, and also the guitarist, trace player, and vocalist in the Rumba Madre. So David, thank you very much for being here and joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for all the students for listening to me.
Absolutely. I thought if you don't mind, we could kind of start off. The students have seen the link, of course, to Rumba Madre's website and listened to a little bit of music. But if you don't mind sort of describing, or I'm curious to hear the way that you talk about the music that Rumba Madre makes, and also kind of how you think about your role in the band.
So the music that we play, the Rumba Madre started in Nashville. So we were all different musicians in Nashville, and we would play with different bands. And because I'm from northern Spain, and the rest of the band is from Latin America. So because of that, often we would get people that wanted us to play some like or flamenco or like cumbia or salsa, like that kind of stuff, or maybe not specifically the style, but like just give it a vibe to a country song, but we're gonna add some percussion. And so it got to a point that we were like, this is kind of like, they should be doing like full-on Latin stuff instead of just using like these little things here and there. Like embrace the whole thing and actually, like bring this culture to Nashville. If you really want it, just bring it like all together. So we decided we were gonna form a band to play more Latin music. And so while we were playing with different bands, we would be like, maybe like I was playing with the bassist in one specific band, then with the other guitarist in another band. So we all got together and we tried to do something Latin based. But at the same time, we didn't want to end up being like the kind of like the stereotype of Latin music, because we were playing the blues, country, jazz, whatever. So we thought we're going to do that, but not as like trying to be super, like essentially it's like pure kind of Latin music, but we're going to mix it with country, rock, blues, and whatever. And that's how it happened. So we wanted to like bring a new understanding of what it means to be Latinx member of the Latinx community in the US today. So someone who has roots that are like can be salsa, rumba, cumbia, whatever, but that can also just be part of the country, blues, jazz community, just like any other person.
Sure.
Which we wanted to also address, because in Nashville it's hard to often, like I used to play country in the UK. When I moved here, I was like the guy that played flamenco. So I wouldn't be part of like, I want to play country. Yeah, no, but like, it's the other thing.
Yeah. And I'm curious then too, maybe to dig a bit deeper into that path too. How did you find yourself in Nashville? What brought you to Nashville? Especially sort of the musical journey, but more broadly than that is welcome as well.
Yeah. So when I lived in the UK for about 5 years, and I went to music school in the UK. And when I was at music college there, all my professors would go to Nashville. Like, I don't know, they had this fascination with going to Nashvile, and I was like, so what's going on in Nashville? So because for me, like, music was in Spain and the UK, but it wasn't like I didn't have to go to Nashville to play a 12-bar blues. You know what I'm saying? So I thought I'd check it out, and I tried to come to Chicago and check out the music in the US. And I ended up applying for a PhD at Vanderbilt University in Nashville. And I got in, so I was like, well, this is perfect. I'll just go there and I'll do my research and do everything. And at the same time, I can play music there.
Yeah.
And so that's how it all came together. And I ended up in Nashville.
Very nice. Maybe too that the way you sort of described the band leads to a question I was curious to ask you, which is, reading through the bio of the band on the site and in the press kit, and then just in the music too, that the sort of dual ideas of genre diversity and range, and also a range of place and location really come through. And I'm curious about, especially, having had these sort of three discrete areas of musical activity geographically, and interacting with bandmates who are from different parts of the world too, how you sort of think about place and genre, either as interwoven or as distinct things in the music you're making? I know maybe that's a very broad question, but whatever occurs, I'm very interested in.
Yeah, sure. So to me right now, there's like different layers, I'd say, of how one can feel part of a community in the US. And I mean, there are like we can talk about the Latinx community. We can talk about the jazz cats. You know, they play in the jazz venues, and the like. I don't know. There's like many different ways that one can feel part of a community, especially in terms of music.
Mm-hmm.
And for us, it was always about trying to create like this abstract, I guess, like place, land,
Mm-hmm.
where everything was possible.
Yeah.
And in that sense, we have a song, Your Favorite Mariachi Band.
Mm-hmm.
And in that song, I play like country guitar.
Yeah.
But we have like Tex-Mex, so kind of like Mexican trumpets and everything. And with the sounds and the lyrics and the stories that we tell in the lyrics too, we're kind of trying to like create this abstract imaginary place in which everything comes together and everything works together. So you don't have to be one specific community, but like, because at the end of the day, we're very fluid, you know, like we can be like when I was in Nashville, I was part of the Latin American musicians, but when I was in the UK, I was different. It was a different thing. I came from Spain. When I moved to the US, for many people, I was the European. Mm-hmm. So depending on where we are, we can see ourselves as a different thing, different with a different identity. So for us, it was always about just creating a place where anything can happen. Like, let's make this music with this lyric talking about something else, with this instrument that comes from a different culture, and see if it works. Like, sort of creating like the 21st century's broad identity of just being from anywhere.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah. There's a term, I think that fits this well, from Thomas Torino, the ethnomusicologist, the notion of, I think, cosmopolitan, right, that works here, right, as something sort of different than global, but, you know, about these interconnectednesses, right? So, you know, Nashville to London and wherever else the connections might take you. Maybe too, that description gives us a chance to sort of dive a little bit into the nuts and bolts of how you all make the music in the Rumba Madre. So just kind of broadly, how does songwriting work in the band? You got a couple singers, and I'm curious to what extent it's a collective process, a collaborative process versus an individual process. And let's just start there.
Yeah. So mainly there's two of us who write the songs, and we don't do it like necessarily together. Mm-hmm. We're trying to do that more like now, but when we recorded the first album, each of us had our own songs, and then we tried to, you know, add our own vibe, but the songs were kind of like already written. So what we do really is that, like, one has an idea, develops a song, sends the song to the others, especially right now that we work through the internet, because some of them are in Nashville and California. So we have an idea, we send it over, we record something in our home studio, then we send it back, we see how it goes, do you like this, do you like that? And we just keep going. But I would say, like, the main thing that is always there is like, let's be weird. Like, let's just add weird stuff. Like, let's go to places that you wouldn't go. Like, even if then it sounds like the worst thing, let's go there and see how it sounds.
Sure. Yeah, I've always thought the fact that we treat experimental music as a specific genre rather than just something that can happen in any genre context is maybe a mistake, right? That's an experimental process, right? Trying out some things you might not otherwise and seeing what happens. Yeah.
Yeah. And then if it sounds, you know, you can mix, like, we had people from Venezuela playing horns. Mm-hmm. And they did like salsa horns, but then we had again, like I was saying, like, one of the songs I'm playing country guitar, and another song is just basically like almost like punk, like, just like, like full on punk. And then you can see if it works. Sometimes even, I'll say this, even sometimes when I feel like it doesn't work, I'm like, let's keep it, because sometimes you just like, you think from your own patterns and your own like framework. So something like, let's just keep that, because it's weird. It's maybe it doesn't sound pleasant, but maybe that's the point too. Let's just keep it.
Sure. Yeah. I feel you there. The certainly the number of times when something in a song has seemed a little weird to me, and then after repeat listens, it turns into my favorite part of the song. There's a
Right.
thing that happens. Yeah, they change meaning, those gestures, over time too. Yeah. And I'm curious then too, so with that idea of fusion as kind of an experimentation as this guiding principle, is that something where do you find yourself sort of, all right, I'm in the Rumba Madre writing mindset, and as a result of that, things are sort of intuitively or inherently gonna come out with that direction? Or is it something where you might put down a song and then it's a very conscious process of stepping back and, okay, where do I make these additions? Where's the spot for the salsa horns? Or where does the cumbia beat come in, or whatever it may be? Is it something you have to make a conscious effort to do, or at this point do you think it's just inherently part of the writing process?
I think both. It goes both ways, because like at the beginning, because we've been like all the musicians and myself, we've been exposed to so much. And growing up, I'm from northern Spain. Like I grew up in the Basque Country, so I spoke Basque at school. There's a specific music from the Basque Country, but my family was from Galicia, so I used to play like bagpipes, tambourine. I'm used to like Celtic music from Galicia.
Yeah.
But then I had gypsy friends who play flamenco, so I played that too.
Sure.
So at the end of the day, like that's who we are. So when we write a song, it just comes like that. Like to me, I'm doing something, and maybe something like bagpipes sound cool here, but I'm playing like a flamenco rhythm on my guitar. But that's just like, that's my mind. That's how I'm built.
Sure.
In addition to that, because there's so many other places that we can go to that we haven't been yet, so they're not part of our thinking or creative process. We always also just do things like I don't know, like I might go like use Indian rhythms that I'm not that familiar with, and I'll just listen to a few and like, let's put this here, let's see if it works.
Yeah.
And even if it doesn't work, maybe we'll just keep it because it's cool. So yeah, there's a lot of what comes out because we all like the other vocalist is from Colombia, and he plays classical music, and he's been playing all around Latin America, playing like folk Latin American music. So he might add some of that too, and then so it's like it's both ways. It comes out in that mind state, but we also force it through different.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, there's no reason it has to be an either or. Certainly, right? If it's part of the mindset of the band, it makes sense. Yeah, that it would manifest in both directions. I'm sort of along those lines too. One of the things we've been doing in the class a little bit is using from Poetics of Rock, the book by Alban Zach. He offers this way of sort of thinking about popular music with a tripartite structure, right? There's the song, there's the arrangement, and then there's the track. And the track sort of includes the arrangement and the song, and the arrangement includes the song. But there are sort of separate elements that you can distinguish there, right? The song itself may be kind of like the lead sheet core, and then the arrangement are the parts on top of that. The track, the things that happen and only get decided and established when you're in the studio making the recording. And I'm curious if in your process in the band, if you all sort of think of those as distinct layers. Is there a sort of, okay, the song is established and now we're fleshing out the arrangement, and then there's the stuff we're going to save for the studio? Or do you find that those decisions sort of get folded in, right? So maybe that horn part that was a counter melody is there from the beginning, even if it feels more like an arrangement aspect or something like that.
Yeah, we definitely go with an idea, with a specific idea to the studio, but we're not expecting it to end up like that. So we have an idea, but then things happen, and then someone adds something, and then we have another idea while we're recording, so we change it and do something different. So we do have. It's not like we just go with the lyrics and the chords. We have an idea, but we never end up doing the very first idea, and happily, gladly enough that we do that. And so by the end, for instance, La Rumba del Coco, in which we have horns and everything.
Yeah.
At the beginning, the idea that I had was like a flamenco rumba from Spain, rumba, but then it had a violin, and it was more like a gypsy jazz kind of vibe. And when we were at the studio, we just got talking about someone who did really good horn arrangements.
Yeah.
And so we talked about, let's get some arrangements for this song. And so we did. And then that actually helped us get more song arrangements in another song, Rosario. We got horn arrangements from the same person for that song.
Nice.
And the song ended up like, I don't think you would feel like a younger Reinhardt kind of like vibe
Sure,
right now.
Yeah.
But that was a lot like the idea
Right.
at the beginning. So yeah, I would say we go with an idea, but also hoping that that idea will change and take the songs to a new level.
Yeah. That's a good reminder. Sort of thinking of the of the recording process as still part of the compositional process, right? So there's room for stuff to change until you send it out into the world, and I guess even after that, right? I mean, Kanye redid his whole album, right? So
yeah, like the other thing is when you play live, that to me is like, again, I don't think, and this is something that some people might think different because I've had this conversation with other people, but to me, what we do in the studio doesn't have to represent what we're going to do live, and it doesn't have to represent specifically the musicians of the band.
Yeah.
Or because that's the studio, we do what I think something that sounds like the best that we could do. Then we go live, we might get more musicians, fewer musicians, we might change stuff, and then that's, to me, it's a completely different thing. Live is going to be like, it's going to be like a party. I'm not trying to like showcase the music. I would if it was maybe a different band, but not
Sure.
with this one. So like, it's going to be a party. I want people to sing, to have a good time, and we'll do whatever. We'll adapt to the place, to the context, and I'm not trying to like reproduce the album live. And even if we had to for any reason, I would probably use the stems instead of having to like work with specifically the musicians and everything that we did at the studio.
Sure. So. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, if you're trying to recreate, then why not use the version that's already there? That makes a lot of sense. I'm curious then too to maybe dive into that live versus studio discrepancy. And so I think that idea of sort of live as a spot where there's party energy and there's the engagement with the audience makes a lot of sense. But I wonder if even digging into the specifics of that, are there things in performance that you find yourself doing differently? Is it a different vocal methodology? Are you playing guitar a little differently? Where are the spots where that I guess other than just whether the musicians are there or not, that the live performance diverges from the studio performance?
So I think the whole the Rumba Madre, the entire project is more than the music. So it's about the video, about the about the art of the album, the art of like we have some like animated videos, and so everything for me is like part of the artistic project. So everything, it's not like this video is supporting the music, but this video is a piece of art in itself, and it has to be a great music, not just music video, but a great video. Like it needs to be really cool without the music being played. So. And in that sense, I think that everything is like creating, like I was talking about, this land in which we want to go to. This is the same kind of thing. I want to create like a world, like almost like if you think of Kiss, like they created this thing in which Kiss is everywhere. It's not just the music, but something like that, but not like from a less capitalist kind of perspective. I'd say.
Sure.
And so for the live gig, I kind of see the same thing. It's not just like the music being played. Like it's almost like it needs to be kind of like a communal. I'm thinking of like not religious, but like this communal thing, like mystic thing with the audience, in which everyone takes part, and they're mesmerized by the music, and like they move and they dance, and like. So to me, the live performance is like that moment of creating that kind of vibe in which, like we're in this situation in which we're all experimenting, experiencing this bliss.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm interested too to dive into that visual component since it came up. And one of the things we'll eventually do in class is I'm going to ask the students to find kind of some visual way of representing the music that they're making too. It's a small part of our class, right, coming out of the music department, but that's certainly really striking in with the Rumba Madre's work, right? You know, whether it's just the website and the visual spot where folks might encounter the band that way, or like you mentioned, the videos. And I noticed too, just the range of the videos, right? You've got some things that are live action and sort of in that, you know, almost like narrative music video realm, the animated video that you mentioned as well. And then also you have the one you all did for, did from home, right? For, I'm forgetting the name too. Sorry, the mariachi band song, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm curious about how you, you know, sort of from that vision of this, the visuals as a core component. How do you make those decisions about sort of what gets what kind of visual and what sort of choices you make in the visual realm, and even down to just sort of selecting collaborators, right? A director for the video or something like that.
So the main guiding, I guess, force in everything, in addition to what I was talking about, like, you know, experimenting and all that, is the social justice, and I'm trying to like represent, again, like this broad identity in which we all welcome. Mm-hmm. And in that sense, everything has many different elements from especially Latinx culture, because that's what we are, in essence. And so even the logo, we add little elements that are, you know, like representative of maybe like Argentinian Native American culture, or like Mexican culture. We use colors that represent some of the colors that have been used for some specific things in native cultures. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of that. So we have every little detail, even the cover of the album too. If you look at every little detail, we have this thing of like adding symbols. That's how I look at it, like symbols that can open a new door to a whole different world. So if you look at the cover, there's very different little details here and there that you recognize what they are. That's going to open a whole world of something. It might be like we have a condor, for instance, like condor, like the you know, like a more Native American bird by and so that with also we have wheels, and in the cover I'm talking, so that bird that flies, you know, all over the borders and everything, but then the wheels to move. And so we're trying to represent the movement of people across borders, immigration. So every little detail is really well thought in that direction.
Sure.
But yeah, what was the question again? What was the?
Yeah, I think that's touching on it too. So how you make those decisions, and then the part two that got me interested in is also if you're working with collaborators on the visual side too, sort of how you select those folks and how you communicate that vision to them and sort of create that match between the vision of the musical world and the visual world too. Yeah,
so we've done like a lot of research to find, you know, I'm working with different people and trying to find the right match. So I'd say that's one of the, instead of, I think for me, the way it's worked, it's not trying to impose of someone my view of how the video should be. I mean, of course, there's things that you're going to say because you have the artistic idea. But instead of trying for someone to like do specifically everything that you want them to do, I've come to learn to either finding the person who already works in a similar way to what you want, so you just let them do the things because the thing is going to be similar to that, or just trusting the person that you're working with and let them do what they want to do. Sure. And know that, I mean, what you think is best right now, maybe it's not, maybe they're right.
Yeah.
So just like with the music, you know, like doing something that maybe sounds bad, but like, let's leave it because whatever. Right. So at the end of the day, now we've worked with enough people and we have enough contacts that we know the people that we want to work with. and I think it's like a trial and error until you
Yeah.
really like maybe you find like this is the perfect thing, the perfect person for this job. And it also depends on the song. Maybe
Sure.
the perfect person for this song, maybe a different one for another song.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, but I think the main thing is again like losing the fear to
Mhm.
to take things to places that you were not expecting, because
Yeah.
they're taking it to a different place that maybe works for other people, and maybe you just weren't there. Your mind wasn't there at the beginning, so you couldn't see it. So just let them do their thing.
Yeah. In that spirit of collaboration too, I'm curious about how it's worked now that you're out here in Monterey County with us, and I assume the rest of the band is still in Nashville, and sort of what it looks like to collaborate, even just within the band, sort of at a distance, and how you make a musical relationship work with that separation too, which I imagine is very different than jumping in the rehearsal space once a week or something like that.
Yeah, the thing, we got to a point really when I was in Nashville, we got to a point that we wouldn't really rehearse anymore in terms of a rehearsal. We would get together to discuss, I don't know, the latest news about Donald Trump, and then how that could be a song, something
Mm,
like that. But like, and again, this is part of what I was saying about seeing the project beyond music
mm,
making.
yeah.
We're not making songs, we're making art, and art spreads to everything in our life.
Mhm.
So in that way, if we because we had a tour before we released the album, and we were going to go on a tour around the US, and then the pandemic happened, so
Yeah.
we never got to do the tour. But right now, when we well, now actually we're talking to the booking agent, and we're trying to do that again.
Mm-hmm.
So when we do that, the way it's going to be, if it's going to be like say a tour in the summer, like a month or whatever, we'll get together and get the musicians that, if we need more musicians, if we need horns or whatever, and we'll practice for that. Like let's say a couple of weeks, get on the road and do that,
Yeah.
and but that's it. For the rest, we collaborate. We send stuff out. They send me a song, I send them some chords, whatever, and we do things.
Mhm.
But we don't practice. Like we don't see the.
Sure.
We each of us we play with different bands, with different other bands, and just play
Yeah. Yeah.
music. So we practice music, but we're not like get in the rehearsal room, and but like again, we
Sure.
didn't do
Sure.
that at the end in Nashville either,
Yeah.
because once you know the songs, because again,
Right.
it's more about creating interesting songs, and that doesn't come from just, in my perspective, it's not just about jamming. You have to think about, you know, cinema, literature, politics, and all that is gonna like create a song that is gonna have a deeper meaning than just like a few riffs.
Right.
So,
Right. So how do you know when a song is ready? And I guess maybe that means ready to go into the studio, or maybe it means when you're letting it get molded in the studio. As we approach kind of the back third of the semester here, the students are kind of getting to that point, and they'll have something to submit to me. And I know from experience, it can be very easy to sort of perpetually write and refine, and then never wind up with anything out there. So what's the thing that sort of either for the band or for you individually gives you that check, right? Or that light goes off that, all right, this is the song now.
I'd say that it's very good to have a few people that you trust,
Mm,
and that's like our producer or the engineer that we work with. When we were at the studio, and I was like, let's do this again, let's do this in a different way, because I'm very obsessive. Like I'm like,
yeah.
we're gonna do this 1,000 times until it feels good, like just like it feels perfect. And they would be like, man, it sounds good, just leave it. So we would go do something else. Next day I would listen to it, and I'd be like, oh yeah, it's perfect,
Yeah.
you know. But because you so much like thinking
Sure.
it, that you just don't know when to end. So I think that having a couple of people that you trust and doing what they say, when they say like this is ready, don't think,
Right.
just stop. I think that's a great thing to do.
Yeah.
Also, but like having someone that you can trust, not someone that's going to tell you that it's good just to please you.
Sure. Sure. Yep. Yeah, that's nice. It's a good reminder too of some of the value of the commercial studio, right? That having an engineering and or producing partner in there as a separate set of ears. But I think also there's something to for all its wonderful qualities, the home studio also makes it so easy to do 50 takes of something, right? You're not paying paying anybody, not on anybody else's time. So there's something to be said for that framework in a bunch of ways. Yeah, that makes sense. One of the other things I wanted to ask here too, which is a very big question, but one that we've kind of been negotiating in class. The students sort of in collaboration came up with the rubric for how we're going to evaluate the performances, the recorded performances that they submit at the end of the semester. And again, a big question, but if you had to come up with a definition, what are the things that you think makes a great performance? And I guess kind of however you want to define performance in that context, because I know there's a lot of options there.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think to me, it depends on the context. So it depends where's going to be where's the performance going to be,
mm-hmm.
And like thinking about where is it going to take place, then I would think like, so what's the culture, what's the politics, what's the everything around that place, and then from there I would kind of like try to find the objective of me performing there. So what I want to achieve with my performance. So for instance, we played in Nashville at a place that is normally just like I'd say like mainstream white music. Mm-hmm. I think you understand what I mean by that. Sure. So for me, when we went there, for instance, the objective was to actually make people sing in Spanish, make people dance, make people like clap their hands and have like an experience of like this mix of Latin American, Spanish, global world music.
Yeah.
That maybe they wouldn't have in any other gig.
Right.
When we've played at maybe a place that like a Latinx festival and there's like salsa, there's this, that, and well, I'm not going to try to make them say something Spanish or like keep the clave because many of them, they know how to do that.
Sure.
But maybe I know that they're having the part of a community that's struggling with, say it was during Donald Trump's years. Mm-hmm. So maybe they're struggling for different things. So maybe we're going to use this gig to support and like celebrate the Latinx identity, mm-hmm. and to be happy about being a Latino. I'm proud of being a Latino in the US and like, reflecting about how Spanish has been in the US before English and like how it's just like being proud of, being a Mexican, whatever, like, and so that would be my goal. So and then we would go more in that direction. So it depends really. I would just think about what's going to be my performance and what do I want to achieve, taking that context into consideration, and then do that.
Nice. Yeah. I think it's a beautiful answer, and also it's a very scholarly answer, right? It's the academic approach, right? The research is part of finding the answer, and so maybe that's a nice pivot to talk about your other work as a scholar of music as well. And I'm curious, especially someone who's also now coming to it from a department that's not a music department, right? World Languages and Culture certainly encompasses music in its own ways too, but is a separate thing. How do you find your music sort of informing your scholarly work, whether that's your teaching or your research, and then also vice versa?
Yeah, my research is revolves mainly around alternative, underground, punk, and styles of music that somehow work from the underground, mm-hmm. and how they resist capitalism and how they can oppose racism, etc., etc. So in that sense, what I do with the Rumba Madre is basically what I've come to like understand and the way I've come to view the world, mm-hmm. through my research. So my research is like paramount for my music, for my creative process, because even like having a gender perspective, for instance, in a song, I mean, I have that because I've read and I've done research on gender studies,
right?
So that informs when I write a song, I'm like, I know that if I'm going to talk about like Rosario, for instance, the song about Rosario is a Latin American woman in the US as a single Latin American mother in the US
Mhm.
working for her children to, have a good life.
Right.
So the way I use the words and everything that I say is always very much, I'm very aware of how to do it because of my research and my
Yeah.
readings and and the other way around, when I teach and when I do research, not just the music making, but also like gigging and being part of a real community of people that are not necessarily scholars, is so like crucial for me to also approach academia and my research in a way that it can affect, or they can somehow be understood and be used by the community. I'm not trying to just be part of the ivory tower of scholars that just talk among themselves. So I think that, like, to me, that they both really complement each other.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Do you? I'm curious, both sort of as a researcher, sort of doing field work in communities, and then again on the other side, whether do you think either your folks you're working with in a research capacity are informed or react to your identity as a performing musician and someone who's sort of who's living it as well as writing about it, and then on the other side, whether what sort of reactions you get to folks who when you're as a performing musician who know about or learn about your scholarly work.
Yeah, I think in terms of with other scholars, I think I think that most people would view it as a asset, because you can, like, coming from there, you can have a more direct idea from the music world. And it also adds something that, in the English cultural studies world, music has been part of it like forever.
Mm-hmm.
But in Spanish, what I mainly do, we're still so focused on literature that even cinema is like something almost like new for many people. So the few people that I know that are working on Spanish popular music from a cultural studies perspective, they normally come from literature,
Sure,
but they like music.
Yeah.
But there are not as many musicians as maybe in other departments of, I don't know, English or
Right.
or the music department, of course.
Yeah.
So I think I cannot think something else. I can talk about notes, just to put it like I can talk about chords, and I can talk about rhythms and things that you need to know music to a certain level to do it. And also some people might know music, but maybe they didn't get a major, they didn't like study music like formally, right. So they don't feel like confident enough to actually do it, and they feel like what is that thing, the syndrome, the
imposter syndrome.
Yeah, the imposter syndrome, because they're no musicians themselves.
Yeah.
So I think it really helps, and I think it gives me some kind of like a different, something special, if you wish.
Yeah, absolutely.
The other way around, when it comes to doing music, I try to not be too academic, like I was saying, because not everyone is in, musicians, and they don't necessarily have to be scholars. And but I try to, if I can, always be aware of everything that's being written in the song, for instance, so that we're aware of, that we have a racial perspective, we have a gender perspective, we have a class perspective, and so I just try to make sure that that's happening. I'm part of a committee in Nashville of Music Neighbors. That is a non-profit organization for musicians in Nashville, and I'm there as part of the committee, just trying, I help make sure that every identity is being taken into consideration, and so that's what my research helps in my music making. But I try not to be too academic, because musicians can be shut up.
Yep, I've experienced that. As we kind of get towards the end here, I'm curious for students working on their own songs for the class at this point, if there's any any tips or things you would encourage folks developing their songwriting and their performance of that music, things you would encourage them to try or to focus on in particular? I guess anything that sort of felt like the secret sauce or the epiphany in your own journey as a musician that can help folks get that extra step in their journeys.
I think for me, in terms of songwriting, it'd be trying to disassociate the style of music, the genre, and if they're thinking about a genre, and the lyrics and everything that revolves around that specific genre, because we kind of grow up thinking about the blues, and we think about we're going to sing sad songs, and we're going to talk about specific things, and we're going to sing in a specific ways. We think about flamenco, and we know that there's a specific sound, and all of that is just, I mean, it's that way because it happened that way. It could have gone in a completely different direction. Mm-hmm. So to me, I would always, in songwriting, I would always question myself about, am I following specific lyric because this matches the genre and the sound and what's been written about this genre and what other artists did in the past? And I don't use major chords and write a very sad song. Yeah, I don't know,
sure,
do the unexpected and then see where it takes you.
Yeah, that's wonderful advice. Yeah, absolutely. And for sure, some of the most striking songs in the world, right? The ones that subvert those things in interesting ways. Yeah, thanks for that. So as we wrap up here, I will certainly make sure the students and the description of the video has the link to the Rumba Madre website, so folks can go and check out more there. Anything else you would encourage the students to check out?
In terms of our music? Yeah, you can, subscribe to our channel on YouTube, follow us on Instagram and all that. Gotcha. But yeah, anything and if you got anything that you want to talk to me about, we can, or I don't know, if you want to jam or whatever, just I'm always for anything. And but yeah, I would just say try to change something with your music, like whatever it is, maybe don't change the world, but maybe change your friends.
That sounds good. That seems like exactly the right spot to wrap it up. David, thank you so much for doing this today. And I appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks everyone. And thank you for everything.
My pleasure.